Okay, we're going to move on next to Danny. Danielle Araya has been an educator and facilitator at the 519 for the last 9 years, specializing in trans awareness and inclusion trainings. She's been an advocate for trans women of color, native and non-native to Canada, and has worked with organizations like Two-Spirited People of the First Nations and the Ontario Aboriginal HIV/AIDS Strategy, as both a member of their boards and as a peer outreach worker to help better support and serve the Two-Spirit communities in and outside of Toronto. She dreams of taking her skills and expertise back to her mother's land in Chile and help them build stronger resources for trans people there. So I want to welcome you to the microphone.
I'm not Kid Hazel. I'm replacing her for today. She's sick, so I'm here to hopefully provide my years of experience as a person that's been working at the 519, being part of the community, and has seen and been part of, in some capacities, the work that we do at the 519 for senior, elder, LGBTQ2 people. So hopefully I have enough to contribute today, but there's never a lack of shyness, or I always have words to say, so don't worry, I'll be very talkative. So I just want to let you know where I come from, who I am. I was born in Canada, I'm from Chile, and I was born here since 1984. I can feel safe sharing that in this space, but I'm a Two-Spirit trans woman, and in 1989 is when I kind of transitioned. So I think I have some kind of experience, lived experience, and kind of seeing how the community has changed in all those years. And sometimes, like Susan was mentioning, in our community, we don't have a lot of elders in our trans community. There is a very short life expectancy for trans people, specifically trans women of color, specifically from countries like where I'm from. And so it's a blessing, it's a privilege to be able to speak here on behalf of those communities and those voices that are not here to speak for themselves. So I'm always acknowledging that privilege and that blessing that I have to be here and speak on, hopefully, issues that I hope to one day have, like to age. Because even in a lot of ways in Toronto and in the Western world, I call it like aging is a privilege, and to age gracefully and to age a long life is something that a lot of the people in my community that I've seen don't have that luxury. There are a lot of social pressures and systems of oppression that are forcing us to kind of either exterminate ourselves or extinguish our identities, or take it out on each other, kind of hurt each other, or have other people do that for us. So there's always the conflict of how do you transition, when do you come out, because it's sometimes safer not to. And so there's a lot of discussion of who is trans, and like the gender politics is so fascinating because nobody can tell who someone's gender identity unless they tell you. And that lived identity is so unique and special. So there's so many people that we don't know in the world, or sometimes when people are reported murdered because of Trans Day Remembrance, we just know not even names, we just know bodies that were found and were, I guess, described as trans or were assumed to be trans. And so there's a lot of statistics out there that we don't know, and there's a lack of research and knowledge around trans people in general, let alone trans people in aging, and how we share that information with people, because it's not safe for us sometimes to share our identities to people because of the way traditionally and systemically we kind of are treated. So the work that the 519 has done, specifically in the past 2 years, because growing up, there were no support groups, there were no studies and support systems out there looking into these kind of findings or trying to support this aging population. And so from what we've learned from the community and from what we've provided in support of those needs is different kind of direct services. So some of the stuff we do at the 519 is a page. I don't run these programs, Kate does. The 15 plus LGBTQ drop-in, and that's every Monday. It's a drop-in that provides community support, community engagement, food, resources, workshops sometimes, and then all the other projects that have stemmed out of this, again, need to kind of support that community. And so we've done projects like doing it for ourselves, which offers life skills, and again, community building, Youth and Elders project, which includes arts and intergenerational workshopping of different kinds of storytelling. And then another huge part that we do with the 519 I've been part of is education and training department, that we go to a lot of long-term care homes, nursing homes, and try to teach staff, specifically staff, how to be more trans-inclusive, because there are a huge amount of issues and problems that arise when a trans person is in those spaces, whether it's pronouns, whether it's gender identity and gender expression, how unique those issues are for people. The challenges with somebody losing, I guess, their capacity or their authority over themselves, people losing, I guess, their memory of themselves. There's been stories that we use as scenarios in our workshops to help educate people about a trans person once forgetting they were trans, and then their family of origin telling staff, we don't want her to dress the way she wants to dress. We want you to dress how we want her to dress. And that's lacking her her authority in herself and how she expresses her gender identity. And so that happens a lot sometimes. Or people go back in the closet if they know they're trans and they don't want to be treated unfairly, because that's the statistics out there that systemically trans people are discriminated against everywhere, in every capacity, in every way. So a lot of trans people go back in the closet. It's not about being stealth, it's just about denying their own authentic selves in these spaces and trying to appear cis or be cis in these spaces, because that's a privileged state of being, and you get treated better when you kind of follow the norms. And so we're trying to educate staff and all the families and the communities around these nursing homes how to better communicate, how to better understand and empathize with this aging population. And it's difficult, it's tricky sometimes, because people that work in these spaces come from their own unique experiences and backgrounds. I always find it fascinating, as a person of color, seeing the dynamics that go on in these spaces, intergenerationally, intersectionality, what people are coming from other countries, taking care of older people that are not their families because they're trying to support them doing this work, and they're treating, other people, hopefully, decently, or, fairly, and hopefully humanely. But sometimes those cultural differences, maybe religious challenges, come to work with them. And that's where we have to hopefully teach better education about, the Human Rights Code, about, I guess, treating people how they want to be treated, not how you want to be treated, very equitable kind of practices and policies that should be in place, but sometimes aren't followed. So there's a huge kind of hill to climb with this, and we're trying our best, because the more we do this work, the more we hear that the need and demand for this kind of work. And so we're trying to provide more resources, trying to provide more workshops and education, trying to support with a lot of advocacy work. Kate is a specialist in that and does a lot of work with different long-term care homes, some of them in Toronto that have two that we know of so far that are kind of specialists in this field are at Fudger House and True Davidson. And I think at True Davidson they have a GSA, which is Gender Sexuality Alliance, just like in high schools, that support not just the LGBT people there, but the allies of those people and the staff that want to support them as well. So these initiatives, we try to bring our expertise to, but also just support them in whatever way they need. And so there's a lot of work, I think, that the 519 is doing, and a lot of agencies and organizations are doing, and the partnerships that I've seen grow from this work has been really wonderful. I got to meet a lot of wonderful elders in the LGBT community, which is, again, very lovely and a privilege for me to have. But it's not always the same in different communities. Trans people, again, come out at different ages for different reasons, and a lot of the people that I grew up with aren't around, and the ones that do kind of are still kicking and still kind of fighting the fight. Don't get acknowledged for all that lived experience, all the kind of struggle and fight that they put up with. Like Susan was mentioning, there have been challenges in the kind of different generations, understanding the new laws and the new protections that are going on that kind of support people's lived identity, but there's so much diversity within the trans community that it's sometimes a challenge for everyone to agree on the same issues or to support each other in their struggles and be heard and seen. And so I've seen a lot of, intergenerational kind of conflicts over the idea of just, picking a gender, like picking male or female or masculine or feminine gender, and then non-binary people that want to refuse that or kind of exist outside that binary. And so there's a lot more, I think, communication and community that can be built around those, those shared issues, but also how unique and different they are from each other. And hopefully, just agreeing to disagree sometimes on what's important and what's, hopefully, what people just maybe need to have more empathy around. And so, and also from my own perspective as well as a two-spirit person, just seeing kind of, again, the intersectional violence that comes with being an LGBTQ person or a trans person, and a person of racial identity with, indigenous culture and all that history of violence and trauma. There are so many, two-spirit elders and friends of mine that aren't around. And we need to acknowledge all of that, those issues, all those challenges that people have, not just with aging, but with disability, with race, with other challenges that again prevent them from getting to hopefully an optimal age where they can share their stories and can build communities for themselves and each other. So hopefully we can have more of those discussions. I'm happy to be here and contribute to that discussion and share any expertise I have and experiences I've gained. So thank you.
Very chatty people, and yet you're all like right on time or just under time. That's amazing. Awesome. Okay, great.